A little bit of good news, a little bit of bad news. The good news is if you're interested in electric vehicles, which are the future, the federal tax credit for those is back in this version of the bill. It hadn't been in some of the previous ones, but there's bad stuff as well. Directly affecting TYT, companies can no longer deduct the cost of free food provided to employees. So we're screwed at lunchtime, I guess, when it comes to snacks. You can no longer subsidize the commuting expenses of your employees, because after all, the food and the commuting, that helps the workers. Screw them. Let's see, you have carried interest. Interestingly, churches will not be able to openly endorse candidates. That had been in previous versions of the bill, it's no longer in it. But one of the biggest things, you talked about the tax holidays, is that is in this in a big way. So money held abroad, which is being kept away, it's basically tax evasion. It's not being brought back to be taxed at 35%, is gonna be able to come back at one of two different rates, and I love this. If it's real estate, it comes back at 8%. So again, that's a way that, yeah, you're benefiting people like maybe Corker if he's in international holdings, but certainly Donald Trump, and cash and stock at 15.5%. And they will say that, look, this is gonna raise money for the government, but this also sends another unnecessary signal to corporations. Just park your money abroad, don't pay corporate taxes on it, and someday when we get in power, we'll do another tax holiday and you can effectively get it back almost for free. That's what happened back in 2004. We've analyzed ad nauseum the effects of it. It didn't help the economy, it didn't spur hiring, and now they're doing it again.
Yeah, so I'm most devastated by the snacks portion of this.
Yeah, no, but I love it because it's so petty. Anything that's going to affect actual workers, like for instance, when they made it that your relocation expenses, if you have to move to get a job, they were gonna take away the ability to write those off. Anything that affects actual workers, they don't care about that, they're not gonna include it. They want to help the corporation, not the people that actually make the corporation able to function.
Yeah, I don't think Kohler and I have ever had a discussion of what do you think our deduction is going to be on these potato chips?
But over the course of a year, it could be significant. And in a tight economy, it could lead corporations to start cutting back the very few things that make life less soul crushing in this country, like free ramen.
We got no free ramen here.
We at one point did have ramen, actually.
Oh, did we did?
Yeah, not recently.
I definitely did not.
It's been rough times, but at one point we did.
I did not authorize that. But in all seriousness, the main point here is the one that John's making is really, really important, which is that they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar on some of these things. Like the teachers used to be able to deduct $250 for supplies for the kids, right? That they're buying out of the goodness of their heart. They shouldn't have to do that. We should provide for our own kids in these public schools. So it's so small, it was so gratuitous.
So
it was
petty.
a slap across the face of the average worker and the teacher and our kids, right? So once they got caught doing that, they're like, oh, God, all right, put it back in, right? Doesn't really make a difference anyway, we're just trying to rub it in their face.
And no, they're not gonna buy the supplies, they're just gonna let you write off $250 of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tiny,
you still have to spend the money, you just don't get taxed on it in the same way.
Right, but the private jet loophole survives.
Yeah.
So they get giant loopholes on the carried interest, which goes to the hedge fund guys, the real estate stuff, that goes to Trump and Corker and the other guys. Giant loopholes on private jets, so the rich win, and win more. And now the bill, there's all sorts of polling out on it, deeply unpopular, 55 opposed, 33 in favor. For a bill that only has 33% approval, that should be dead on arrival if we lived in a democracy.
Yeah.
Then people would go, whoa, I'm gonna lose my job, that's so unpopular, I don't wanna do that. But we don't live in a democracy, and all these so-called representatives care about is their donors. That's why this bill is designed exactly for them and at your expense.
Yeah, and by the way, it's been growing less popular as the last month has gone by. It is very difficult to come up with legislation that will be less popular than Donald Trump, but they found a way. So that's why it's important that people talk about this, and the social media opposition of the tax bill has been so significant. One other thing that's in the bill, because it totally has to do with taxes, they're gonna allow drilling in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. So although we stopped for 40 years, we stopped them from drilling there. Got through George W. Bush, Obama never touched it. With a Trump win, now they're going to be drilling in there. And the terrible thing is that theoretically, some of these changes, in 4 or 8 years you get a progressive, you change them. I think people have been fooling themselves about how easy it'll be, but it could happen. But once you drill the Antwar, once you take out the resources, once you mine national landmarks, you can't unmine them. You can't undrill them. That stuff is forever, and this bill is going to make it possible.
Well, that's exactly what's wrong with the Trump presidency, because some of the damage he does, you cannot undo.
Yeah.
A lot of it has to do with climate change, but that's not all.
Yeah.
And if he starts a war, you also can't undo that. What you just watched was one of the videos that we do today, but we actually do a whole 2-hour show every single day. It's a podcast. You could watch it in video or listen to it as audio. You can download it, you can stream it, and you get it completely ad-free if you could become a member of the Young Turks. tytnetwork.com/join.